Hey, so Mark here from Rock and Load, and this afternoon I am joined by hard rockers Dead Romantic. I've got two of the crazy kids from the band here. Today we're joined by Mike Komprass, guitarist in the band, and Alice Bates, bass player. How are you guys doing?
Awesome. How are you doing?
We're super duper, super duper. So listen, for anybody who's unfamiliar with the project and the band, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, we're a band called Dead Romantic. A bit about us. We're a relatively new band. We've been around for about a year, and the initial start was a bit slow. So we went through some member changes and finally settled on the lineup that we have now. So at the moment, it's Dan Taylor, Sam Studdard, Alice, and myself. And then right now we're just using session drummers until we find the one. So, and then we released a single April, I believe, of last year, kind of in the middle of lockdown, which did all right. Our video kind of took off, and we have about 1.5 million hits on it. I mean, it's nothing super amazing, but it's a good start for a new band. So we're working towards the record right now, and we should have that out hopefully by the summer. I know we keep saying that the record's coming out and we keep delaying it, but it's really close to being done and ready.
Yeah. And you were sort of talking about the interchanging sort of band members, because obviously looking at videos, I've seen a few different faces. The musical prostitute that is Adam Breeze on drums, for example, coming in and out. Yeah. So you guys are settled then on your lineup as you move forward, just trying to find that drummer.
Yeah, we're still trying to find that drummer. Musical prostitute. That's a good term. Adam's a great guy. If you know him from other projects, he plays with everybody, and we just kind of need someone more that is available. Really, on the record, I played all the drums on the album, so
okay,
makes it easier that we didn't have to find someone to do the record, so we could just kind of use session guys for right now.
And did you actually play drums, or did you use like a
no? There's no get good drums on there. No, it's all live drums, and yeah.
Cool. And so, like, how did the actual band come together? How did the project start?
Started with Dan and I. We started writing some songs and kind of fell into it. So we had tried a bunch of songs that were, in our opinion, pretty crap. And then one day something came out, and it just worked, and we're like, yeah, okay, I think it's time to start a band. We have something here.
Yeah. You are a producer as well, Mike, I believe. So, like, how is that wearing the hat of doing the production side of things as well as being a band member?
It's a bit odd when it's your own band, because I think, with other projects that I'm not so attached to, it can be a bit easier. You don't overthink things, and you kind of go with the flow. And with this thing, sometimes you tend to be like, oh, is that good? Oh, maybe we should rewrite this chorus. Or but no, it's definitely a lot cheaper than to go hire. So it's fun. I try to separate myself as those two roles of producer and band member, kind of think of like two different people.
Yeah. It's got to be challenging at the same time, as you say, because either you're over analyzing, or maybe you say something and then another band member takes a sideways glance and thinks, what head's he wearing at the moment,
Yeah. Thankfully the band's really cool, and they don't give me that, at least to my face. It's like probably
but behind his back.
Yeah, I guess it can. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, yeah, it's something kind of I've always had to do with other projects too. So I'm a bit.
Yeah, and your accent doesn't sound too local. So where are you from?
Well, you're probably hearing in California, but I was born in Toronto, Canada. Okay. My mom is from Manchester, but they migrated to Canada. I was born in Canada, and then early 20s moved to LA and spent most of my life in LA, and then Nashville, and then here.
Okay. And did you study the producing side of things? Did you go to college to learn?
No, I didn't really do that. It was really hands-on. So I started really young. I think I produced the first record that I ever did at 16 years old. So I was just always wanting to be around music and in the studio, and I would associate myself with people that were doing things. So even if I had to be the coffee boy, and I'll be the coffee bitch, just let me in on the session. So I just wanted to be around it all the time, and I kind of learned hands-on.
Yeah. And did you do that again in Nashville?
No, I did that like being really young in Canada.
Okay. Cool. And from a guitarist point of view, then you seem quite an accomplished guitarist as well. Obviously, watching your solo work and stuff in the band. So when did you pick up the instrument?
I was 4.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I basically came out with it. I had no choice. No, it's just it was just something I always wanted to do. I knew from being very young that I just wanted to be a guitar player and play, and it's kind of always been like part of me.
Yeah. And what sort of musical influences did you have sort of growing up?
They're a bit all over the place. So I would say I would be lying if I didn't say I loved cock rock, because I totally love all the glam rock, the shred stuff, you know, Van Halen, Paul Gilbert, all those people, but then, you know, Toto and Lukather and Prince and Michael Jackson and funky stuff and Beatles, and there kind of is no limits with influences. Like I've gone through all the phases, like, you know, the John Mayers of the world and the Stevie Rays and the bluesy side of things. And then I also really love shred guitar and metal stuff. So it kind of, I love it all for different reasons.
Yeah. And Alice, what about you? So when did you pick up the bass?
Oh God, must have picked up bass about 8-9 years ago. I was originally a drummer, and I thought picking up bass would make me a better drummer in a band sort of scenario, because I thought I'd be able to lock more in with the rhythm section. And yeah, when the opportunity came to play with these guys, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a bass player now. Got drums aside, and yeah, started playing bass properly again recently. So really been enjoying it.
And is that a weird transition to get back into? Were you drumming just up until recently then, until the project?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still obviously noodling around on bass, but nothing in a band setting. But coming back to it's been really refreshing, and it's nice to be at the, you know, at the front instead of stuck at the back.
Yeah. You can see a few faces for a change. And how have you guys found the whole live scene then? Because obviously you have been out and about doing things since the UK reopened again.
Well, I mean, sadly, we're kind of waiting for dates to come in, so we haven't been out there on the road. We had a tour that got postponed, and that was in the kind of thread of the last lockdown. So all of that got canceled and postponed. So now we're starting to get festival dates coming in. So we're really excited to be out there again. And we're actually in the studio today rehearsing for that stuff. So very soon we'll be playing again, and really excited to get out there and do it.
Yeah, and you were touching on the album is due. It's imminent, pretty much. You've dropped, I think, is it 5 singles to date?
I think, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what do you think of this sort of modern music approach? Because obviously some people do a plethora of singles and then the album comes out, and some people hold back. Do you think it's a right or wrong approach to the modern music industry now?
I think it all depends on who you are as an artist. Like, we don't have the massive fan base where people are just waiting we can't wait till the next Dead Romantic single. So we're still in the profile building stage.
Yeah.
You know, even though we do have some fans there, but there's not a million people out there anticipating an album or when is it going to come out. So I think for us, the best approach is to release singles, to keep content out there and to keep the momentum going. And then when we feel that we have enough of that and people will be ready for a record, then we'll stick out the record. And I think we've had to rethink that a little bit because of COVID and shit getting canceled and all of the crazy things that have gone on and tours being postponed. It just didn't make sense for us right now to just go stick out a full album, because it would have gone triple potato. Yeah. So I think it's just, for us, it's the best thing. But some bands, I mean, are able to release records and do very well. And, you know, if you're a John Mayer or you're Bringing the Horizon, putting out an album wouldn't be so bad, because those fans are there and they're always waiting for that stuff. So we're still in the building stage, I would say.
Yeah, it was probably tougher, as you say, in the obviously over the last 2 years because of COVID, whereas you couldn't tour, you couldn't support the singles. So therefore, as soon as the song sort of disappeared off the radar, it was gone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's got to be a more challenging time for you guys. You have to think outside the box, I suppose.
Yeah, and you know, it might be a good idea for features and things like that, or collaborations are always a good idea. So we're going to be thinking about those things in the future too. Yeah.
And about your actual sound, did you guys hone in on that quite quickly about what sort of direction you wanted to go?
I think, initially we knew we wanted to be a rock band, and I think the sound kind of found itself. It just what came out. So we didn't force anything. It wasn't, okay, we need to sound like this band, or we need to sound like this band. And our collective influences, I think, come out in what we do. So, and they're pretty all over the place. Some are pop, some are really rock, some are, shred guitar things. And we just know we wanted to do something that had big drums, guitars, and kind of a musicality and a pop sensibility. So, and this is kind of how it fell out, really.
Yeah. And gear wise, then, like, what do you guys tend to use? Are you digital, or are you still using amplifiers?
It's both. So I'm endorsed by a couple of amp companies. So Mesobarba amps, Laney amps, EVH. I love them, but with the way things are going right now and having to do fly dates and stuff, it seems to be carrying heads and backlighting and all this stuff is a bit insane. So recently I've been using the Neural DSP Quad Cortex for everything. And then I get to capture all my favorite heads and kind of can access them all. So I've pretty much switched over to that for the immediate future. I mean, until we're on a big arena headline tour where we can bring big cabs and that kind of stuff again. But I'm really loving the Quad Cortex.
And any fear, like from a backup point of view, do you have a second one loaded up, or what way you're planning on?
Oh yeah, I have a redundancy with them, and I'm nudging the guys to get, hey, could get a couple more, and I'm trying to convert her to that. So, she's been using like preamp stuff and direct, and she can tell you more about what she's using. But I'm definitely pushing the Neural DSP thing. It's super easy and it sounds amazing.
Yeah. And have you got anything live sort of lined up at the moment that you're looking forward to? You can tell.
Yeah, Dan's not here. He's the one I always look at going, when are we playing? What's the next day? I think there's a potential show that's happening in a couple weeks, a last minute thing, April 16th. And then we have shows through the summer into October, June 3rd. Yeah, there's some festival shows, and all of that we'll put on our socials. And I probably should be more prepared with the little notepad.
Under the desk.
No, I just usually go, Dan, when's the shows?
Yeah. And like, how do you think, as a young band who is still trying to build an audience, how do you think you should really approach this, trying to get that message out there that you're here, you're ready to rock?
I think it's going to be a combination of factors. I think it's going to be radio support, getting content out there that's relatable to people, still releasing good videos. It seems that's what's kind of saved us right now, the Spotify and the videos, and just honing in on that a little bit better, keeping content coming out. And collaborations are really good with our endorsements, because we have quite a few companies that we work with. So those collaborations are always getting the name out there and putting, with that brand association. And then I think it's just going to be a matter of like getting out there to play with bands that are like-minded and suit our demographic, to connect with those bands and, maybe steal some of them.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
What about the studio process then, with the whole recording? How was that gone down with the guys in the band? Everybody up to scratch?
Most of the record was done before the band was put together. So Dan and I essentially did the majority of the record pre-band. Sam has come in and sang and played some keys on it, but most of the record had already been there. So the newer stuff, obviously the band's coming in and play on it, and being a part of the creative process. And we kind of, even though Dan and I are like the figureheads of the band, it's very much a band effort, and everything gets run by the band, and we want them involved as much as possible.
Yeah, and I'm sure you probably see the evolution of the band then growing a bit more with the new members in it as well.
Yeah, it just feels good now. Like, it's starting to feel like we're having fun, and we're really just enjoying being around each other and making music together. And initially with the previous lineup, it felt a bit stressful, and it could have been the COVID situation and just being locked in a room and those kind of things. But it just feels really good now, and I think it's just completing that thing, the lineup, and getting out there. We just need to play. it's the worst being stuck
Yeah.
not playing when that's all you want to do.
Yeah, it's ultimately the final goal, isn't it? You can do as much as you can within a studio, but unless you're actually out in front of a crowd, it just doesn't feel like you've reached the end goal.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think in this modern music industry again? Like, what would you say would be the success? Like, you know, obviously it's such a tough industry now. You have to set a realistic bar for yourselves. You know, you may be lucky, maybe one of the 1% and get those massive record sales, but like from a young band coming through, what are you aiming for?
I mean, I don't think there's a limit to what we're aiming for. I mean, the things that we're aiming for, it's kind of weird because I've had success in other projects that I've been in and that have done really well and sold millions of records. So I have those same goals for this project. So I look at this as like, okay, yeah, it's starting all over and it's a new thing, but those are the kind of, you know, when you see that stuff, you know it's attainable if you work really hard. So I think we just got to step back and go, okay, this is all the work we need to do to make that happen. And it doesn't always happen. I mean, there's so many amazing bands that we all have heard that just don't get the big break or the big single or anything. But I'm pretty determined for us that that's going to happen. And I feel really good about this. And I think we just got to keep working and keep believing in it and just don't put a doubt in the mind that it's going to fail. And
yeah. And I'm assuming then obviously with the experience and the people you've worked with in the past, then you must have contacts that you can pull on to probably help you navigate that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of contacts. And then, but the one thing I want to try to do in this thing is to remove myself from that side of things.
Yeah.
Because I'm already the role of producer and guitar player in the band and songwriter and those kind of things. But I think I want to have a manager do that thing and an agent do that thing and let it be its own thing and try not to associate it with past acts. But because it's a different thing and because I just want the best for the band.
Yeah.
And sometimes associating it with a manager that might have managed another band might not be the right fit for this thing too. It's such a drastically different style of some of the other projects. I just really want it to be its own thing and do its own thing. But yeah, you're always going to call upon, you know, maybe there's that 1AR guy that you know that you're like, I should just send it over. So we have been doing those kind of things.
Yeah. And when you talk about the whole idea of trying to remove yourself, could you ever see yourself stepping back altogether from the production role if you were moving on to another album, for example?
Fuck no. Yeah, I think I could. It's part of the passion process, I think, for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could. I mean, that would be a bit difficult for me because that's kind of how I create now. I don't know.
The control freak inside you.
Yeah, maybe it's just maybe I just need to let it go. That's just a process that I know so well that it just feels natural to kind of demo things and produce them. Actually, I wouldn't even say demo them, but produce them as they're written. So
yeah.
But there are so many. I mean, we did have, even though I mixed the majority of the record, we had Zach Stravini, who's done Architects and Bring Me the Horizon, and everyone. He's doing Bad Omens, all these really awesome records right now. So we had him mix one of our singles that will be coming out. And we've had Ted Jansen master it, who's a beast. He's done everything from Eagles, Hotel California to like the heaviest of the newest stuff. And Tim Turin has mastered it, and we've had some collaborations with some other songwriters too. Steve Diamond, who's written like multi-Grammy nominated songwriter, has come in and written songs with us. So I like the collaboration of those kind of people and being able to, you know, I'd rather not mix the whole record, to be honest, but yeah, it's just so expensive. Yeah.
And then, so for example, you mentioned on the money saving aspect of having your skill set within the band. Has that allowed you to bring in the external people, like you've mentioned there, to add the je ne sais quoi to the finishing product?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and it's kind of something we wanted to do. We wanted to have collaborators on it too. And it's self-funded right now. So we've released what we've done thus far on my own label, which is distributed by Sony. However, everything's funded by the band. So we're essentially all going bankrupt right now.
Yeah.
We're all taking a step back from everything else that we do to focus on this and make it successful. So we're self-funded.
It has to be sometimes though, isn't it? It has to be all or nothing, because if you go in 50%, then you're just not going to get it back.
Yeah.
What's initially on the cards for you now then in the immediate future? Is it that gig you were talking about in the middle of the month?
Yeah, getting the band rehearsed, I would say,
Yeah.
right? Getting the band really rehearsed to the point that we can go out and crush any show. And finding that drummer. So if there are drummers listening to this,
Yeah.
your stuff. There's so many great drummers out there. We've had so many great guys come. It's just we're looking for that special person.
Yeah.
And we might have them by the time, I don't know when this airs, but maybe we'll have them by the time this airs. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because obviously when you're putting a band together, there's so many elements that you want. The personalities are so important, because we're going to be spending 24 hours a day with these people, maybe on the road as well. It's just such a major factor in keeping the band stability together.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for us. It's like finding, like with Alice, she was the perfect fit of someone that we got along with, that's a cool hang, that plays great, that looks great, isn't a total asshole. Well, only some. But I think the having your best friends in the band is kind of what makes it bandy. If it's always like feeling like session players, or you're showing up to a job, it takes the fun out of it. And all of us have done that before with other gigs, where you're the side guy or you're that. But the thing with this is that we want it to feel like we've been playing together forever, and we're like, it's like a marriage essentially. Like we're all married to one another.
Yeah.
And we have to get along and know that when we're having a spat, that's all it is. It's short term and get over it.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? Having that thick skin to just be able to absorb everything that goes on within the friction within the band, but understand that it's not personal.
Yeah.
The album, have you got a title for the album at this stage? Voices, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So right now it's called that. It's a weird feeling that it's going to change. There will be so many changes.
Yeah.
Because in this growing stage too, that we've been adding songs that we didn't think we were going to add to the record, and we've been writing and making changes that way too. So there's a chance it could change.
Yeah, and you just recently dropped a single there, All Talk, and that was like a revamped version of the song, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, basically a placeholder. No, just we needed to get some content out, and we were going to rework the song anyway for the record. So we thought, it's already out there, why don't we release that next? Because it's going on the record, and it gives us some time to get some of the other songs together, and people have been asking for it. So
yeah, and it's interesting though, because really any recording is a snapshot in time of a band at any one given time, but you have the luxury of maybe going back and reworking stuff that maybe you were working on earlier and refreshing it, I suppose.
Yeah, just gotta be careful to not do that, because really, if you start overthinking things, you can go down the rabbit hole. Like,
for sure.
That's different now, so we don't want to do that.
Anything new, would you? Just keep doing the same.
But that song in particular, I think it just needed to fit the direction of where we were going, and now I think it is a good representation of what we are.
And do you have an approximate release date for the album?
I want to say June or July, but there's not a date in stone yet.
Yeah.
About end of June, early July. But there's so many factors that are going into like making that decision. If another label is going to come on board, if we're going to continue to self-release, what our tour schedule is going to be like. Because I think if we're not out there and supporting whatever we're releasing, there's not a real point to put out that many songs, I think, in these days, to just kind of throw it out there. So and making sure the record is a good representation of the band and our sound as a whole. Like if you're going to throw out a record, even if it's going to be a diverse selection of sounds, you still want it to sound like the reflection of this is the band, even though we go these different places.
Yeah. And do you have a thought process in mind? Do you really want a label behind you, or are you looking? Would you be happy with an independent release and maybe just distribution, etc.?
I think so. That's a good question, because yes, you always want the label support and the budgets and the marketing and those kind of things, and that's what kind of is attractive about major labels. But then the flip side, it's like right now we own everything. We own all of our content, we own our videos, we own everything. So if we can get enough behind it to break a single, then we're in a better position. But there's pros and cons of both. So we are looking at label scenarios and talking to people, but also if that doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, yeah. Because as we always talk about this, just the shape of the modern music industry being so challenging, and it's just trying to find that balance all the time for yourselves as musicians. You know, obviously you want to relinquish some of the workload as well, because trying to do everything by yourself is incredibly hard.
Yeah, it's a full-time job, and that's the benefit. But we have a really great team. We have great management and attorneys and the team and agents and all those things working with us to kind of turn this into something. So fingers crossed that it's
well, good. Well, look, guys, I'll leave it there with you. Thank you very much for your time today. Absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, man.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the whole album as a cohesive unit. So looking forward to that for sure.
Cool, we'll send you some private links.
Yeah, lovely, no problem. Well, look, guys, thanks again. Big thank you again to Mike and Alice from Dead Romantic.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Thanks, Night. Talk soon. Take care. Bye.